Joy here. Rachel and I would like to welcome you to You're All Right, Get Up, a podcast full of laughter, personal stories, encouragement, and often a show about living life. As a disclaimer, our podcast does not offer professional therapy or treat illness. We are a motivational, supporting podcast sharing our life experiences, stories, and laughter. Oh, I got a song for you. All right, you ready? Go. Sneaky snake goes dancing, a wiggling and a hissing. Sneaky snake goes dancing, a wiggling and a kissing.
Okay, wait. That's an interesting tune.
So there's a reason that I bring up that interesting tune. My story today is all about Sneaky Snake. Good old Sneaky Snake. He lived a good life.
Now,
Sneaky Snake.
Is this actually a snake?
This is actually a snake. This is a story that this is a good time of year since sneaky snakes are coming out, right? Sneaky Snake, all right, is a little guy that I met on a camping trip. And
again, this is a snake, not a human being.
Story. It is not a human being. It is a real snake.
Wow.
Which most of my family will tell you has grown significantly. Every time I tell this story, it's gotten bigger and bigger.
Oh, goody.
We decided to go on a camping trip. It was in the spring, just in the spring, but it was probably in May.
Oh, okay.
More or less. Not quite summer, but still spring. And we always like to go to a certain campground where it has a sort of a little island that kind of sits out into the water area, right? So you have boats going by and all these beautiful birds and all this wildlife. It's just beautiful. You can just sit out. So you park your camper, your motorhome or whatever. Beautiful little campsites, and you got all the stars above you. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So you can sit out there at night and you can look through your telescope.
Oh, this is romantic.
It's just really great. It's just fantastic. So I would sit there, take my telescope, and I would look at the stars. And then
how old are you?
Oh, no, I'm like, 40. Oh, I'm 40. What was I, like 45, I think, about this time frame?
I was thinking you're going to tell me like 8.
No.
Sorry.
But no, I would take that time to really, I'm such a kid anyway, right? You know, so when we go out,
I can testify to that.
I'm not what my birth certificate says I am. No way. It lied. But no, we go out and we just enjoy, we have a campfire and we do all those things that everybody
now, are you
normally
married
does.
here? Or are you... Like, is it just your family? Like, who's your family at this point?
I'm about to get to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I jumped ahead.
Just describing the area.
I just was thrown off of the 40.
Yeah, right. So I'm looking at the stars, looking at the birds, because they have eagles there too. It's absolutely
that's
gorgeous.
awesome.
Yeah, so there's plenty to do.
You'll have to tell me where this place is afterwards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so our family, which includes Dad and Carol and I, we have the dogs.
Okay.
We were planning a trip, and we were saying, okay, let's get the, at the time, it was the travel trailer, not the motorhome. And, let's get everything together and we're going to go out to this place that we like so much, one of the parks in the area. And we're going to spend like a week there. It'd be great. We get everything ready to go and packed up and all that. And the funny thing is that Dad had a trip planned to Italy. It was funny because we were doing some planning and we were thinking, oh, well, everybody will go and all this and that. And it just so happened that his trip happened about the same time frame that we were planning to go up to the park. So we were like, oh, okay, well, this will be different because normally he's always, with us. So it ended up that Dad took his trip to Italy with his friends and it turned out beautifully. But Carol and I took all 3 dogs.
Oh, wow.
So we took all of the dogs and we said, let's just go up. We'll work a couple of days remotely. We'll just take the whole week, take the rest of the time off, just relax, just do the things that we enjoy. It'd be great. So that's what we did. And while we were there, we were enjoying some of the things I was describing. I'm a big bird watcher, so I love to watch the birds. And I had like the eagles just planned out. So I'm like, okay, this is when they're visible and I know they're probably going to be here and they're in this tree, and I had it all planned out,
I didn't know you were an eagle watcher.
I love it. I love it. I'll just sit there and just kind of map them out and watch them. It's great. It's just a lot of fun. I was doing a lot of that. We were working remotely a day or two and that type of thing. Well, moving forward, we were responsible for an extra dog because normally Dad's around and then he, takes his dog out and we take ours. And so anyway, you can imagine if you've ever been camping, even tent, trailer, whatever. Usually about that time of night when it starts to get dark, it gets dark because you can see the stars beautifully. There might be one little street light out there, but usually it's just natural light. It's moonlight. It's very beautiful. It's very serene. It's very quiet.
I want to go there now.
Very nice. And yes, it is so pleasant and so relaxing. So trying to describe it the best way I can so everyone really gets the idea that as you're sitting out there and just enjoying the night, maybe roasting some marshmallows, it's that time of year. If y'all get your sleeping bags, y'all get packed up. Let's go. Let's all go camping. We're having a great time. This is probably about 3 days into our trip. And so I have to describe, first of all, that we do not have Bella anymore. We had to have her, unfortunately, put to sleep.
I'm sorry.
But I will say that she lived a very long life with her condition, but she had Addison's disease. If any of you are unaware of what that is, for dogs, it's very much like a person having Cushing's disease as a human. Okay, so it's very similar. So she had to take medication every day to control the stress, whether it be happy stress or unhappy stress that she dealt with. And so it was kind of delicate. You had to be sort of cognizant, and they can't talk to you. So, right, it's unfortunate. You have to sort of read them. You have to observe and kind of understand where they are, how much medicine they might need and that type of thing. And so Carol had this down to a science. Even the doctors that had seen Bella before said, oh my gosh, we have to call you. Some of the people from Auburn were like, the vet school at Auburn were like, man, we think you've just done so well with her, and she's lived like twice as long as so many of them do. So anyway, all that to say, we had Bella and we had Kibi, who is no longer with us, but they were big buddies. They were about the same age. We would just harness them up, get them ready to go out. It's dark outside. And is
there a lot of campers around you?
There
pretty isolated?
There are campers around us.
Okay.
Now, remember, we have the third dog, Pepper. We would take flashlights in our pockets. Okay. We were always pretty good. Even now, even though we have lights around the motorhome and everything, we would take a flashlight in our pockets. So even if you have your phone, you have an extra light if you need to see further, a spotlight or something like that. So, we have a little porch light on the outside of the trailer. So as you walk out the door, it's not really a problem. But the more you walk out into the grassy area, remember, you got a street light probably way out there in the middle, but you can't really see around the road and around the grass. But that's where the dogs want to go, right?
Of course. Let's go to the darkest part.
So Carol says, okay, I'm going to take out Pepper. I'll go ahead and take her out. And when you walk out of the trailer, out of the camper, there's a little concrete pad. It's fairly light out there because of the little porch light, but you have to walk alongside that concrete because that's where you pulled in on the pad. And then there's a vehicle sitting there because we had parked the truck right there. And so you had to walk between the trailer and the truck, and it starts to get darker and darker and darker as you walk out, right? To that grassy area. If you're following me, she's gone ahead. I have the other two.
Now, how big are your two dogs?
One is about 60-something pounds. The other one's about 22 pounds. So we come out of the doorway, that same path, walking along that edge of that concrete pad in between the trailer and the truck. And my two dogs stop just immediately. Dead stop. They do not want to go any further.
Oh.
And I'm like, hey, come on, what's up? They're getting a little further ahead. Come on, we got to catch up. What's wrong? And I notice that Kibi, the 60-something pound, is standing over, and she just kind of stands over really close to the trailer. And Bella, this is the 22, right? The one that has the Addisons. She kind of leans her head over like she's looking at something, and then she pops her head back. And then she just kind of walks away from it. And then it's just looking around like, hey, did you see that? That's cool. Look at that leaf. That was kind of neat. And just like she doesn't really care that much about it. I get curious and I'm like, that is weird because normally they just want to take off. So this is still kind of lit. It's right in front of where the truck is parked. I walk over with my flashlight because me being who I am always like generally a little on edge, like preventative. That's what I am. I'm like, I'm always the person carrying the extra Band-Aids, or
of course you
know,
are.
the Neosporin in my purse or something.
Right.
It's like, so I walk over and I put my flashlight like in that general area, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there is a curled up snake right there, and it's,
oh my gosh,
it's small, but it is right there by the walkway.
No, thank you.
Oh my goodness, you should have been there with me, because I normally am like super stable for most things, but for that I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, it's like right here, like right by the car. Any of us could have stepped on that. It was like, oh my gosh. And I'm freaking out, mostly because I was worried. I was like, okay, first of all, I knew they had just walked through there. And I'm like,
they
could
passed
easily, yeah. And then second of all, because Bella was hanging over it and she jumped back, I got worried that it's like, surely it didn't like bite her, you know, or anything. Well, here's what happened really. It's a juvenile. We come to find that out. Okay.
What kind of snake? Are you leading up to what kind of snake
it was? A timber rattler. So yes, if you want to say I was like within a foot, yes, I was near one that.
Oh my goodness.
And it's funny because yes, it was small. And there's tons of people, I'm sure, they're like, oh, well, you know, I was like held a whatever, or was near a cobra, or I don't know what. But
I assure you, I was not near a cobra.
But to me, it was like a really big deal.
Gosh.
I was thinking to myself, okay, first of all, I have to wait until she comes back. I can't really just take off with them and then lose sight of it. Because then, like, what if it really, like, wanted to crawl up into something else, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
You gotta stay with it.
So now I realize there's a lot more out there. So there's a lot of people like, well, there's all kinds of them, you know, everywhere. Well, yeah, but I don't want it crawling up in my vehicle or something else that we've got packed outside.
So at this part, do you know like the length of it? You're saying it's a juvenile.
It's curled up. And I don't, because I haven't done anything to entice it. Now, the funny thing is eventually she comes back with Pepper, and she's like, hey, well, what are you guys doing? Where have y'all been? They've been out walking around in the grass in the dark, and
you know she's probably talking to herself like, what are they doing over there?
Right. And of course, you know, at that point, it's really funny because I'm just kind of freaking out, but I'm freaking out a lot because I'm worried about Bella. Mm-hmm. Now she's completely fine really at this point, and I'm being a helicopter mom because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just want to make sure she was okay, because I did see her jump back. But what we did was, when she came back with Pepper, she said, oh my gosh, because when I showed her, she was like, wow, okay, I had no idea that we walked right by that. She said, well, let's just call the office.
That's
and
smart.
I was thinking to myself, well, yeah, that's the smartest thing. And I'm coming up with all these scenarios. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Get a pot.
What do we
kitchen?
Right. I'm like trying to come up with some net kind of shovel.
Go get a garbage bag.
Like I don't know. I was so freaking out at that point. I couldn't hardly think straight. And she's like, let's just call the office. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. That's why I have you around. So anyway, we call the office, and the folks there at the office are like, oh yeah, oh absolutely. She's like, we'll have somebody right over there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, 2 minutes. I mean, of course, we're not that far from the office, but still, they wasted no time.
Good.
And the guy came, and it was a fully dressed ranger. Guy came in his
sort of a naked ranger,
his ranger vehicle.
I hate when the naked ones come. I'm like, right. No, thank you.
Right.
We got it.
That's awesome. So let's hear that story. Seems like you've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah, I'm like, you could have put your clothes on.
Really? I didn't know that was this type of establishment.
Like, wow, what kind of service does this fall under?
Right. What kind of activities? Okay, we're getting way off path.
Sorry.
So anyway, he shows up. He comes over and he's like, oh yeah. He just kneels right down, takes a look at it, and he's like, yep. He's like, you got you a juvenile here. He was telling us what kind it was. He said, oh my gosh. He's like, you'd be so surprised at the ones that we see here, people call. And he was naming off a bunch of them. And he's like, normally I take them up here and turn them all loose. Well, I take them way down the road, where it's real wooded and sort of out away from everybody. And he's like, I just turn them loose out there. And so he was really just knowledgeable and very kind. And I was telling him about the bite and what I thought was a bite. And he said, oh, he's like, you'd probably know she actually got
by
bit.
now.
He's like, I will say that she probably got a dry bite, because that was one of those things that says you're too close. Just step away, and they'll do that. The interesting is they will do a dry bite before they actually will try to bite. So that's a way of saying you're too close, back up. He caught the snake. He went and got some stuff out of his truck, came back, caught the snake, took it to his truck, took care of it all, told us that if we saw anything else to let him know, but it was that time of year and that they saw a great deal of them and that we did the right thing. And of course, I set up with Bella until 1 o'clock. No, I don't think it was 1 o'clock, but I did stay up watching her and Kibi just to be sure they were good. It was mostly because of Bella and her condition. Something like that was to happen, you know what I mean? Because she was taking the meds she was taking. I think that's what really concerned me the most, because I didn't want her to be all stressed. But of course she wasn't. She was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're crazy. Today's episode is brought to you by Endeavor Promotions out of Birmingham, Alabama. If you would like to reach out to them, you can do that at endeavorpromotions.com.
Did the juvenile snake live to be an adult snake, or was...
No, it did not. And I wasn't going to really say, but he told us, he said, normally I take all these out and turn them loose. And he said, because it's the time of night that it was so late, he wasn't going to go wandering out there to turn it loose out there. But he also said, not just because of that, but because of the kind that it was. He's like, if it's okay with you all, he's like, I won't do it here in front of you, but he's like, I'll probably will end up taking this one out of the population because it's not the good kind. So anyway.
So Petey.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
He crawled up in the wrong campsite.
He did. I kind of felt bad too.
Yeah,
it was
I'm always like, ugh.
But it was the right thing based on, I just hate it for them because they could stay out away from people. But we've seen, the funny thing is before, it's a beautiful place and it's excellent. But the problem is because of where it is and you being out in that water area, we've seen some come right up to the edge of the water. It was daytime and we were out there one day with the dogs. It was daylight. And I looked over and I was like, what is that swimming in the water? Because here I am out there, right, watching the birds. So I get my binoculars. I've got them on me. I look in the binoculars. I'm looking over and I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And it's like a water snake.
Yeah.
Right up at the edge of the water. And it's gulping on a fish or something. And I stood there and watched it for the longest time until it swam away. And I was thinking to myself, we just swam in that water like not long ago. I mean, seriously. And I realized a lot of people say, oh yeah, there's like snakes and gators and whatever else, all around. And there's people that say all that stuff. And I realized they are. I mean, my mom used to say when she was a kid, they would go out in what they call the muddy creek and they'd get in the water, they'd be swimming and everything. And they'd have somebody sitting on the bank. And when they'd see a water snake or something come by, y'all get out of the water. And they'd come out of the water, a snake would go by, they'd get right back in. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, no. I mean, it's bad enough, really, when I'm on a boat or I'm on a raft
on land.
And I'm in the water and I'm thinking, oh, that felt warm. What was that? Like, you can't help it. You're just thinking to yourself, ooh, yeah, don't need to let my imagination run. Oh, but Sneaky Snake, I felt bad for him. He was a good guy, but
wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. He was probably not, I don't know, 3 foot long or something, maybe. But to me, he was like 6 foot, 7 foot long.
You
doubled.
You came to my house multiple times. So you're.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm growing up.
Yeah.
And I was in the woods all the time.
Right.
I never saw one snake in the woods.
I'm
And
surprised too.
I
'Cause
lived in the woods.
that area, well, I mean, it's been known to have some out there. It's what I think anyway, right?
Right. But the only times I did see a snake were on the driveway or right by our garage, and they were always the rattlers, the timber.
Really? Wow.
Timber rattlers. We had German Shepherd mix, and I was out there at night.
Right.
And he suddenly got in front of me and like pushed me and wouldn't let me go forward. And I was like, well, I don't know what he's doing. And then I realized and then this one was an adult,
Oh, wow.
and it was a rattlesnake curled up. And I like to say that dog saved my life.
Oh, I'm
Because
sure
I would have
he
just
did.
kept walking.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
And I just remember just freezing. I watched a lot of Westerns as a kid, and, they can jump.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to be provoked, I guess, pretty good bit, I would hope.
Right.
And all I could think of is to stay still because I don't want it to try to jump
Right.
on me. And I remember screaming for my dad and him just leisurely coming out there because
Yeah.
my mom screamed at everything. Cricket. I mean, so he was just like, okay. So I had to like chastise him. I remember, Dad, when I scream, that means you to come running.
Yeah, right now.
Because I'm not screaming at a cricket or a lizard.
Right.
I'm screaming. And he ended that one. But that's probably one of the scariest I've been, scaredest I've been.
Yeah, I think Kibi and Bella stopped. They stopped because they knew I was going to walk that way.
They're smart.
And they did. They did a lot like that. They just stopped.
It's weird behavior, too. It's not like...
And I'm like, this is not like you guys. And then they were kind of looking that direction where he was. But then Bella was the one, of course, that kind of pointed at it more like, hey, who are you? And, what are you doing in here? And it got my attention.
The same thing happened with my other two dogs I had. They were medium-sized dog, like 50 and 60 pounds. And one of them barked. He wasn't an excessive barker, but he barked a little bit more. And the other one hardly ever barked.
Yeah.
And we were at Brian's parents' house. And all of a sudden I heard this other one barking. And I was like, he never barks. Because at first Brian's like, hush, hush. And I was like, that's odd. He never barks. We need to go see what he's barking at. And he was barking at a copperhead.
Ooh, yeah.
And then, I'm freaking out because they're off the leash because Brian's parents had like a fence around their whole property.
Right, right.
So we just let them off because normally we didn't have a fence at our house. So it's kind of like a treat. And I'm like freaking out trying to get them to come back over here. And they're like 50 or 60 pounds, so you can't just pick them up.
Right.
But anyway.
Well, I remember, it's funny because I think about talking about a snake or something like that. And it's not a worm, it's not an earthworm. Because when you first holler at somebody, they're just like, oh, yeah, it's probably nothing.
Right. It's probably just a tree limb.
I was over at my cousin's, and if any of my family's listening to this, they'll get a kick out of it because my Aunt Bertha, they had a beautiful farm, and it was my mom's sister. We'd go out there and visit and spend some time with them, and my cousins would come over, and we would generally play in the backyard, and they had like this really cool little section where they had kind of like dirt and everything built up so you could play with Matchbox cars and have all kinds of little games out there, and we'd just have the biggest time. We'd play ball and everything. So we're out there just playing. My mom's visiting with her sister, and so we're all running around doing our thing and everything, and all of a sudden I think it was one of the boys said, oh my gosh, come look at this. Uh-oh. And we all run up there, and when we get up there, it is a snake that's like, really, I mean, honestly, it had to have been like 4 or 5 feet long, maybe a little bigger, but I think it was probably closer to 5 feet. And we're just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Look at this. And so let's run inside and tell them. So we run inside, all of us just take it off in there, and we open the screen door, and the screen door slams behind us, and we go in and we're like, y'all, come look. There's a snake out here. And they're like, oh, okay. And you know how people do, right? They get up from the table and they're like,
let me meander around.
Just stretch a little bit. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're coming. And they're thinking all the time, oh, this is just going to be like a big earthworm or something. They found the biggest fishing worm ever. And so they're just kind of taking their time and everything. And they get up and start walking up the hill, with us. And just about as they crest the top of that little hill right there where you could see where it was laying, all of a sudden they start walking faster. And they look down and they're like, oh my gosh, y'all are right. Like, get over here.
I wish we had a video of this.
I know.
Like the casual walking, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. Now I'm on alert.
Right? And so they take off. They're like, go call so-and-so, the neighbor that lives next door. And so my aunt said, oh, yeah, and the neighbor's really good with this kind of thing.
Snake wrangler.
Like he knows his snakes, which one's which and all that. So she calls him, and of course he comes over right away, brings his truck and everything. He shows up and he's, oh, yeah, that's a big chicken snake.
Oh, a chicken snake.
So it's really big. So he picked it up. With
his hand?
Yes.
No, sir.
He wrangled it. He picked it up and he held it up. And when he did, he's just kind of a tall guy. That's why I said it was about at least 5 foot, because when he held it up, he was probably close to 6 feet tall. His tail almost touched the ground right there when he was holding it up.
He grabbed it.
He did.
That's confidence in your identification skills.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Now, they did live in the woods. I mean, big woods.
Well,
like they had a lot, like yours. I mean, they just had woods everywhere, and they had a lot of property back there. So they were very familiar with that kind of thing. But, it was not unusual for us to go down to the pond where we'd go fishing, or the lake down there, and you'd be walking along the roadside, because you know how the road would get where you have like the 2 lines of road where the grass is just kind of in the middle and it kind of grows up a little bit. It was not unusual. I'd be walking down through there with my mom, and all of a sudden you'd see a black racer stick his head up out of the middle of that grass, and Mom would say, just don't run, just stand still. And we'd stand still. He'd stick up and he'd look at us, and then he'd just take off. And she'd say, okay, come on, let's go. And it was just my early memories of stuff like that was just, yeah.
Good night.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my sneaky snake for today. So you're welcome.
Now, if I have a bad dream tonight, I'm blaming you.
Oh, no. Don't be calling me in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I'm going to call you like sneaky snake snuck into my dreams.
I can't be the only person that knows the Sneaky Snake song. Seriously, maybe that's showing my age. I don't know. They used to have this cute little cartoon about Sneaky Snake. Seriously. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just made up that song.
If I can find it, I will do a follow-up.
Okay, please do. I need to know.
Yeah. So sometimes when you're just walking out, you need a flashlight. You need a dog. Because apparently dogs are super good at stopping you in the middle of the night when maybe there might be something there that you don't need to encounter. But nonetheless, we can learn a lot from the fact that there are sometimes things just hidden. Sometimes things that can just surprise you, that you go, wow, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that was going to happen. And all of us can say there are things that sneak up on us. Man, can it sneak up on us. We can have all kinds of things. Like it can be sickness. There can be pain. There can be loss. There can be somebody loses a job when you need money. There's just all kinds of things is going on. But listen, even when it does, even when those things happen, and we know that they do, I think it's really important to remember the people that we have with us and around us, and that we reach out to help those when they're in need, just like when we need help when we're in need. It's really important to remember that and know it's okay. Look, if Sneaky Snake comes up, it's all right. Somebody's got your back. Reach out. If you feel alone, if you feel like you're in the spot, hey, I don't know what to do. I really don't know. This little sneaky guy is here and he's after me. Find somebody, reach out to a caring friend, a pastor, counselor, someone. They're going to be there for you. Don't give up. You got this. We love you guys very much. I want you to remember that you are stronger than you think. Don't give up. And if you feel overwhelmed and you can't do it on your own, reach out to a caring friend, a pastor, or counselor. And if you feel like you've reached rock bottom, the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline has caring people available 24/7, and they can be reached by dialing or texting 988.
Stay true to yourself, embrace the power of kindness, and know that you matter. Till next time, friends.